Good morning. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening to friends watching in North America, and hello to anyone watching on replay. My name is Nancy Hetker, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne, Australia. And today I'm going to share with you the new 2021-2023 in colors. And I'm going to use them doing the Joseph's Coat technique. So let's start with the in colors. For those of you who don't know, in the Stampin' Up! World, there are two sets of in colors. Those are 5 colors that are in our palette for 2 years at a time. We have 40 regular colors that are pretty stable. They get shifted up every maybe 5 years or so, but every 2 years every year we get 5 more in colors that are with us for a limited time, and really are the on-trend colors. They freshen up our palette. They are supposed to be very modern and just expand our color palette to follow prevailing color trends, which you may notice that if you see soft succulent here, you'll see an equivalent color in lots of home decor at Target, and in your favorite clothing line, etc. So these colors get set by the color powers that be, and Stampin' Up! Tries to stay in tune with that. Now a quick explanation of the Joseph's Coat technique. That comes from Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, whichever version of the story you prefer, where you have lots and lots of color. And I can show you one card that I have made with that technique this morning, and I will go back and break it apart for you. So you can see you get all these pops of color on the card coming out of this dark background. And in fact, it's done in opposite order, and I will break that down for you now. But you can see I have all 5 in colors on this card. There's the polished pink, and the soft succulent, and the pale papaya, and the fresh freesia, and then the dark color that is covering everything is the evening evergreen. When you join me, please do say hello so I know who's here. But this is a great, if you like color, this is a great technique. It's got a real pop and wow factor. It's got some shine to it. And the fun thing is that once you make a bunch of these panels, you can put them on any color of the backgrounds that you want, the card bases. So I will break this down for you a little bit here. I did do some work before I came on air this morning. Hello, Paula and Roseanne. Thanks for joining me. So I'm going to turn this over so it's a little less messed up. What I did was I took half a sheet of just our basic white cardstock, and then I took all of the inks except the evening evergreen, and I used our blending brushes, and I just brushed on swirls of the color. You can't see that there, so I'll put it there. Just randomly, sort of keeping an eye so that, you know, I'm not getting too much of a color somewhere and not too big a blotch anywhere. Usually what I like to do is take the lightest color and use that to really fill in. And wherever I've got kind of lighter, whiter patches, I just go over it in the end with that light color just to blend and color in a bit. So there we go. I wasn't going to make you sit here and watch me do all of that because, you know, that's, you get the idea. You don't need to watch all that. And then I'm bringing my embossing buddy in because we're going to do some stamping with Versamark and then going over it with clear embossing powder. And I want the clear embossing powder to stick just to where the Versamark stamp is. Versamark ink is where I stamped it. And this has been sitting long enough. I probably don't have to worry about damp ink, but I did just go over it with the brush. So I'm going to do this just to make sure. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I don't know why Stampin' Up! Stopped carrying embossing buddies, but they did. If you are in Australia and you would like to get one of these, which I think is invaluable, I do have some in my stash that I am selling at cost because I think they are vital. If you need one, get in touch with me and I'd be happy to get that out to you. Now I'm cutting this in half to make it easier to work with. And I'm going to bring my embossing box in. I have found this to be one of the, I'm going to stamp first. But the box I find to be one of the easiest ways to contain the embossing powder that likes to just fly everywhere. Yeah, so here's Versamark, and I'm using the Butterfly Burial, talking isn't working today. Butterfly Brilliance stamped. And even though I tend to find these large F blocks really cumbersome, it seems to be working. A lot of times I put them on a Stamparatus instead, but this does seem to be working pretty well for me. So I do find I have to stand up to be able to see, to get it roughly evenly. So this is going to go on here, and I'm going to hold it for a bit just to make sure I get good ink coverage, because this is a one-shot deal. Pull that off. And now I will bring in my embossing box. It's just one of these square boxes from Stampin' Up. Use any box you want. I've put a piece of used grid paper down just in case there is a spill. It makes it easier to get stuff back in. I'm being careful not to touch on the stamped images, and because this is a large piece, I'm just going ahead and pouring the powder on. And I'll get it all over everything. Tap off excess. And I'm looking, and I think I have good coverage everywhere. Because I used the embossing buddy, I don't have powder on non-stamped parts, so that's good. See, when I put that back on, there is a spray of powder. You can't see it, but I know it's there. And I'm going to bring in my heat tool. I'm telling you, over 15 years of stamping, and I still just love heat embossing. Sorry if this is loud because of where the camera is, but you can see it start to melt. Hi Joyce and Renata, glad you could join me. Looking to see how much of this you can see. It's pretty subtle at this stage. I don't know if you can see that melting down and becoming glossy and shiny. But basically it's a powder that melts down into a plastic coating. In this case it's clear, sometimes it's white, sometimes it's a metallic. You've seen me do it before. I will always do it because it is wonderful fun. I'll get that out of here. Let's see. Yeah, I know you can see it. Just gonna make sure all of it is melted. There we go. Okay, so you can see it is melted and glossy and lovely. Now, I'm going to take the Evening Evergreen and I'm going to put it all over this. When I first started doing Joseph's coat, Stampin' Up! Carried this lovely hard brayer, rubber brayer, and it's still my favorite for putting ink on. You can use one of the blending brushes, you can use sponges, you can use sponge daubers, it doesn't matter, or you can use the sponge brayer if you have that. They stopped carrying the rubber brayer for sponge brayers. You can use anything you want to put it on, it doesn't matter. I'm going with my rubber speedball brayer because I have it and I like it. Start off this cardstock on your grid paper and you're just gonna keep re-inking. And what happens is, this is a resist technique, so where the where the embossing powder is will resist the ink. So the ink only goes where there's no embossing powder. And you will see in a minute, once we get a good coating of ink on everything, we want to cover up all of the underlying ink. Now, most of the time this is done with black ink, but obviously any dark ink will work just fine, and why not use the dark in color since we're showing off the in colors. Here we go. Put that aside for now. And then what you do is you take a bit of paper towel and you just wipe the excess ink off the embossing. So there's ink pooled up on the plastic clear emboss, but it just wipes right off with a paper towel and leaves you with your lovely butterflies showing. So that's it. The time-consuming part is getting all the little daubs of color everywhere. The rest of it goes pretty quickly. And take the messy stuff out. You can then see, we can put it on, I've got card bases in all of the in colors. I probably wouldn't do the evergreen. I'll pull that out too and you can see why. I like the contrast. So you can see if you put it on the evergreen, there's no contrast there. We need to cut down one more time. So this is just a quarter of a piece of basic white cardstock. And now we're going to cut it down into the first layer size, which here with A4 cardstock is 14.4 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Since that side is already cut off, I went ahead and cut off. I mean, this side is cut off a little bit too, but there we go. So, no, that's very dramatic, but it doesn't have the contrast, so not so fun. Leave that for something else. But you can see, you can put it on the pale papaya, and it just pops. Likewise on the polished pink, it works great. And on the soft succulent also. Very nice. And then the original one that I did, the first one I did, I happened to use the fresh freesia. So I'm going to go with one of the brighter ones for this. I think we'll just go ahead with the fresh freesia. Or no, sorry, that's the polished pink. And I have all of the in color ribbons as well. I know my friend Nikki is not watching at the moment. I know she'll be here on the replay because happily, she is back to teaching classes live and in person, and she's holding a class right now. So I'm very excited for her to be able to restart those. Let's hear it for the vaccines. So that's on there. And we'll make up a bow, because why not? I'm not reinventing the wheel, I'm just doing the same thing in a different color. Get that on there in a minute. And bring in a piece of that. And a birthday tag, because y'all know I do lots and lots of birthdays. Clean that off. And let's see. Clean this off, all that. That's from the brayer. Got off the edges here. It's okay, it wiped right up. And I'll be right back. I'm just going to cut this out really fast. Go, and it's time to assemble. So I had a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator event last night called On Tour. That was interesting, fun. I did a lot of card making during it. I listened to a lot of people and then made cards while I was at it. I'll be sharing those over the next week or so, probably. And we'll put a couple of dimensionals on here. There. Anybody have any questions, comments? And then let's see how we're doing with our bow here. Grab a blue dot. just touch the bow. Hello. Just touch the back of the knot of the bow to the glue dot. Pull them off together, really. Stick that on. Yeah, we'll do some trimming of the ends. And there's that one. So there's two of them. I actually can keep going one more or two more. I have this one that needs to be stamped. So like I said, the time-consuming thing is really swirling on the colors. And then Versamark all over. This is just a very sticky, clear ink. You can use it to make like a watermark effect if you want. It just darkens the paper it's stamped on. Or you can use it basically as a glue ink to be able to put embossing powder on, which is what we're doing here. And I did not use the embossing buddy on that, so we'll see how this goes. Bring in my box. It should be okay because it did have quite a bit of time to dry. The first one I did, I had to brush off a lot of excess embossing powder. Oops. And again, because this is a large space, I'm pouring that on. Go off this way and this way. Yep. Get that out of the way because we do not want to heat the entire container. And then I'm just using the back of this paintbrush to hold it in place so it doesn't blow all over. And yet I don't burn my fingers. So I'm going to send these cards, I think, to my customers to show them the new in colors and this Butterfly Brilliance set, which is in the new catalog. And I'll stick a note in there showing them, telling them what pages to find these products on. So if you are in Australia, I'll wait till I'm finished here. Make sure you hear this clearly. I think I have it all done. Okay, as I was saying, if you're in Australia and you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that you are working with, would like for me to be your demonstrator, would like to receive one of these cards, drop me a line, either Nancy at nancysniftynotes.com, or leave a comment on this video, or send me a message through Facebook Messenger, and I would be happy to get a catalog out to you with one of these cards. Okay, so now we're going to do the Joseph's Coat color on top, starting off the page, come on. Like I said, I prefer to use this hard brayer because I own it, and it's what I learned to do this with. I think it makes the fastest, easiest, darkest coat possible. But any color blending technique, whether it's the brushes, sponges, sponge daubers, any of them will work just fine. You just want to get lots of color on and I'm going to try a little bit more with one of these brushes to see if I can get down in some of these crevices maybe a little bit more than I did on. See if that makes a difference instead of going over the top so much. That may make an appreciable difference to how much definition of the butterfly there is. Okay, let's see how that goes. Yeah, I wondered about that. So you can see by going over it with the blending brush, and this would probably also be true with a more spongy, whether it's a dauber or sponge brayer or the sponges themselves, you get down into more of the crevices and you get a little better definition. Of the butterflies. I don't want to get this on the, yeah. So there's a there's an amendment to my I love my hard brayer rule. So let's get that mounted up and see what we think. Oh, right, trimming. You guys are being quiet. You've either left me or I've entranced you enough that, or you just don't have any questions or comments. Any of this is possible. Bottom. And let's do it all at the bottom. Okay. Again, we have the Pale Papaya open weave ribbon. Daisy is in your lap. That's a nice trick for a full-size golden retriever. Noah went with me to book group Monday night. Glenn was teaching. He says, okay, you people talk a lot, and I really don't understand why it has to be right at my dinner time. Because my book group here in Melbourne meets from 6 to 7, which is his dinner time, which is my dinner time too, but we both survived just fine. So again, this is my trick. It saves a little bit of ribbon. It makes it much easier to get the ribbon right where I want it, as snug as I want it, instead of wrapping it around and trying to get then the perfect bow in the right place. And this is not tight. And we will do another birthday sentiment. We'll just go ahead and stamp this one as well. Be right back. Okay, here are those two. Get this glued on. Yes, being in the chaise would make it easier to have Daisy with you. I think that's Glenn's biggest complaint about raising a seeing eye puppy, is that unless you're willing to get onto the floor, there is no snuggling up with the dog. He wants to be able to have puppy right up with him on the couch, but nope. Here's that one, and I have one more already. Do the trimming first this time. See how big a deal it is to just do it with the brushes. Okay, so we're going to do a hybrid. Because this is the fastest way to get the general coating on. And then we'll come back in and go over each butterfly with the brush. This one maybe, I think, is the other half of the first one I did where I had excess embossing powder, so it's not going to be, I can see it's resisting here and here. It's not as clean with the images. And it does get your hands dirty. But that's okay. Okay, get rid of those. Bring in this one. The right way. Never-ending battle with the wrappings on these spools of ribbon. Sometimes they open up really easily, and sometimes they're just a little tight. Ribbon scissors. Trying to figure out if I have a favorite among the new in colors. If I do, I think it's this soft succulent. It's more blue than soft seafoam. Okay. And I'm sure we could do a batch of these where we weren't so matchy-matchy on the colors of the ribbons with the bases. don't know if you noticed, it's just, well, two things. One, I have dedicated ribbon scissors. These are my paper snips. I use them to cut paper all the time. For ribbon, these only cut ribbon. If I catch you cutting paper with them, I'll be very unhappy. So they've got a piece of ribbon on them that keeps them sharp to cut fabric-y things. And then when I cut, I'm not cutting right at the tips. I'm going in, and that makes a cleaner cut as well. So there's a little cutting tip for you. There are all of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think it has occurred to me we have done no bling, but we have bling, and this would be fun to use them on. So in all 5 colors we have in color jewels, and I'll bring in my take a pick tool. And I'm just gonna add various of these. There's 5 on that one. Come here. Two, 3, 4, and where are we going to do number 5? Wait a minute. There we go. And now this one. Okay, there we go. 4 cards, 5 different in colors, 45 minutes, plus a little bit done in advance. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will be back same time, same place next week. Nobody's clock changes. So yeah, join me for another project. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them here, or contact me at nancy@nancysniftynotes.com, and I will see you next week. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.